Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me on another Inwyt Walkabout. I'm in an interesting location this morning. I'm actually in Australia at the town beach called Terrigal, and it's a beautiful morning, and I'm here visiting some family and enjoying a morning walk on the beach. What I wanted to chat a little bit about today is routines and how routines affect what we do every day, and both in a good way and in a way that we might want to look at. And I want to share with you sort of a quirky routine that maybe is an example of something that's a little bit more on the absurd side, if you will. And that is, for a while, we have two dogs. We have an old Bichon, Lucy, who you can see on the front end of the trailer, who at this point is about 13 years old, and she's diabetic and, sort of at the tail end of a good life. And as part of our routine with her, she's pretty fussy about her diet, and she also requires regular medications, including insulin injections twice a day. So I have this routine in the morning, and so does my wife, but I'll talk about mine, where in the morning, after she's been walked, we put her food together. And at this point, she doesn't like dry food exclusively, and she actually is very picky about whatever additions we try to put in to entice her to eat. And so it becomes a little bit of an exercise in finding the right things. And part of the routine is then to, find some different, scraps of meat, leftovers, kind of chop them up, put them into a little dish, put some water in it, and to put them in the microwave for, 30 seconds or so, just that one button push. And in the meantime, I have sort of created that routine of saying, all right, I've got 30 seconds to basically get her meds sorted out. One of them being insulin, getting the syringe, drawing it up exactly, and trying to get it all done within 30 seconds by the time the microwave beeps. And, I sort of found myself, that unless this was completely coordinated, that I would frequently get very close to the edge or overstep, the boundary of the 30-second alarm. And it would kind of stress me out because, I'm competitive and trying to make it work and fit in. And I had one day where, it just was not, things were not lining up, and, the microwave was going, and, either the insulin vial that we were using was empty, so I had to get another one, and so I was just way beyond the beep. And, I was just like, all right, well, I just got to draw this up. And I think the thing that sort of kind of struck me interestingly was that I was kind of getting myself all worked up in sort of a silly way around trying to get all of this done within the beep. And when I had that one basically big overstep of the timer, all of a sudden I just kind of realized, what am I doing? This is just ridiculous. Just draw up the insulin, and if it beeps, it beeps. And, what's an additional 30 seconds or whatever to, get her food ready and basically, prepare for the injection. So, again, it's a silly example, but, it's an example of something where I got caught in a routine that sort of became absurd and became almost a pressure point for getting it done for no good reason other than it was just sort of an established expectation of mine to try to get it done in 30 seconds. So, again, what's the point of all this? Well, I think, again, this is not a judgment of routines, but if you think about what we do in our lives, so much of what we do is routine. And, I think a couple of things to point out about routines is, there are functional routines that make sense, where we're trying to do things in a consistent way, like brushing our teeth, or certain safety checks that take place in operating rooms, or as part of people's work, things that we want to stay safe around and that matter from a functional standpoint. And then there are a lot of routines that just become sort of what I would say is subjective, or sort of psychological securities, where we do things because it's comfortable. We don't like change, we don't like uncertainty, and so we start to do things that keep us in a comfort zone, that we think is a comfort zone, so that we don't have to address and deal with uncertainty that we just don't want. So again, we all do that, and again, there's nothing right or wrong about it. But what I would point out for us to consider is that routines are always about past behavior and just repeating things that we've always done. And so when you start to think about routines and how we do things, regardless of whether it's functional for a safety purpose or for psychological safety, we're caught in essence doing things that we've always done, and there's nothing new in routines, right? So when you think about how routines really start to creep into everything that we do, we may not even realize that they're routines. What you really end up doing is you really end up having a lot of experiences, if you will, that are just repetitions from the past, and you really just don't see things around you anymore as they actually are. You're always seeing them through a routine lens, or refusing to try new things because it may disrupt the routine, or create some kind of dynamic that you get uncomfortable with. So keep that in mind, as you're going through your day. And I think, again, it's not about saying we all have to change our routines, but I think we miss so much in life, and particularly when we're problem solving, our way of doing things, even if they don't work, become comfortable because they're routine. And we see this all the time when we problem solve, is that people get very comfortable in their discomfort, or in doing things that don't make a lot of sense because, quote, we've always done them. And so it becomes a very limiting factor, both in changing things for what is correct or functional, and you can't even see what you're doing anymore because it's just constantly coming from memory. And you just miss out. You miss out in life, you miss out in relationships, you miss out in seeing things and testing the water for new things. So again, nothing to do about changing routines or to say that they're right or wrong, but challenge yourself when you're going about your day, and just doing things either that give you a little bit of a trigger, like, ooh, this isn't, I'm hitting a comfort zone, or even things that you do all the time, like, brushing your teeth. Watch how routine brushing your teeth is. And one of the challenges that I always encourage people to test is, try brushing your teeth either with your opposite hand, or start brushing your teeth in a location where you normally don't, and watch what happens. It's an interesting phenomenon. And again, just kind of think about how, when you're going out to eat, or you're just doing certain activities, where you just kind of watch and say, why am I doing this? Do I really have to do this? And you may start to see some things about your own behavior and have an opportunity for, again, maybe taking a chance, trying to do something new, trying to do something different, and see what happens. Because it's very constraining routines if you're not paying attention, and you're doing things that really are not necessary. So that's all for today. I'm going on a nice walk later today with my family, And I hope you have a wonderful day as well. I'll leave you with one final view of the beautiful beach here. Again, it's just a spectacular morning. I'm Rick. This is Inwyt Walkabout, and I'll see you next time. Take care.